As I clasped my hands together in front of my father's memorial portrait, I completed my morning ritual. In the frame, Father wore his usual gentle smile. The pearl necklace on the table caught the morning light, casting a quiet gleam. The fragrance of daffodils wafted softly from the vase. "Good morning, Dad." Outside the window stretched the characteristically orderly landscape of the Brookline district. White columned mansions, meticulously trimmed lawns, and gardens blooming with seasonal flowers. My childhood home was one of them. In the morning mist, the maple trees were beginning to turn red, and in the distance, a church spire reached toward the sky. I paused before an old photo frame. It was a picture from a summer day 15 years ago, one that Father had treasured. It captured a backyard barbecue party. Mother was pouring homemade lemonade, and my sister was laughing innocently in her white sundress. Father had his hand on my shoulder, wearing a proud expression. I can still remember the warmth of his large hand. While finishing my makeup in front of the mirror, I glanced at a more recent family photo. It was taken 10 years ago when I was 24, while Father was still with us and our family was complete. Father, Robert, stood straight-backed, watching over the family with warm eyes. Mother, Patricia, stood with the elegance befitting her former model status, her pearl earrings gleaming gracefully. My sister Olivia wore a lovely smile, and beside her, I offered a reserved smile. Back then, Mother was still kind to me too. She would take me shopping at high-end boutiques, and on holidays, we'd spend afternoon tea time at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. However, everything changed after Father's death. Mother's attention shifted entirely to my sister, and her time with me gradually diminished. I picked up the photo and gently ran my finger across its surface. Compared to back then, my sister's features had changed dramatically. After several cosmetic surgeries, she had become a woman of perfect beauty. Dressed in flashy makeup and the latest designer clothes, she now lived a glamorous life as both secretary and fiancée to William, the heir to a construction company. From my room's window, I could see luxury cars passing on the street. The Brookline neighborhood was enveloped in an even more serene atmosphere than usual on this holiday. I could see neighborhood madams enjoying their morning walks with their dogs. Among them must be some faces that would attend today's wedding. As for me, I chose to live honestly like my father. I work as a makeup artist at a high-end salon on Newberry Street, valuing natural beauty. Father always said, "Jenny, your kindness and sincerity are your most precious treasures." Keeping those words close to my heart, I walk my own path. From my vanity drawer, I took out my father's keepsake pearl necklace. The simple yet elegant strand of pearls emanated a soft light in my hands. This was the precious item Father had entrusted to me before his passing. Though not as flashy as Mother's accessories, it carried a certain weight and warmth. Today is my sister's wedding day. I murmured to my reflection in the mirror. A navy silk dress with the pearl necklace. Neither too flashy nor too plain, but an elegant ensemble. I took a deep breath. The morning light falling on my cheeks illuminated the edge of the photo frame on my vanity. The clock showed 8 a.m. 4 hours until the ceremony at the Langham, Boston. In the preparation room where I'm headed, I'm scheduled to do my sister's makeup. It's a professional job. I must enhance my sister's perfect beauty even further. On my way to the door, I stopped once again before Father's memorial portrait. Under his gentle smile's watch, I gave a small nod. Dad, please watch over me. Pushed forward by father's warm gaze, I stepped out into the fresh morning air. The moment I stepped into the bridal suite at the Langham Boston, I caught my breath. A crystal chandelier sparkled from the ceiling, elegant interiors unified in beige and gold, and a row of full-length mirrors created a graceful space. In the corner, white and pink roses were lavishly arranged. Jenny, you're late. My sister Olivia tilted her head in her wedding dress. The dress was Vera Wang's latest creation, with delicate lace from neckline to hem, and pearls and crystal beads that sparkled in the light. I'm sorry. The traffic. Mother cut me off before I could finish. Start quickly. We don't have time. Patricia appeared in a lavender silk dress, with perfect hair and makeup. Her profile still strongly retained traces of her modeling days. As I laid out my makeup tools, I observed the room. Luxury brand cosmetics were scattered about, along with new Jimmy Choo heels and a Cartier tiara. Items far exceeding the budget of a normal wedding were placed here and there. Olivia, I'll start your makeup now. I stood before my sister, trying to center myself and focus on my professional work. However, there was an unfamiliar coldness in my sister's expression. Oh, these brushes? Olivia frowned. Surely these aren't the same ones you use at the salon? No, I bought new ones specifically for today. I see, but are these really good enough? My sister pulled out Tom Ford's latest brush set from her makeup pouch. Knowing the price, I couldn't help but stare. It easily exceeded a month's salary at the salon. The Will family relatives will be here, Mother interjected. Make sure the result isn't embarrassing. My hand paused for a moment at those words. But I quickly recovered and continued applying the makeup carefully. Sis, Olivia suddenly lowered her voice. Actually, I need to discuss something about money. I stopped the brush in my hand and met my sister's eyes. There was something like anxiety floating in them. I need to prepare a greeting gift for the Will family. Could you lend me about $500,000? $500,000? My voice rose in surprise. The amount far exceeded my imagination. Yes. Of course, I'll pay you back. As soon as Will's company goes public. I couldn't hide my confusion. But that amount. You still have father's inheritance in your account, don't you, sis? Those words froze something inside me. True, father had left me an inheritance. But that was important funding for my future. Olivia, that. Oh, what are you hesitating for? Mother's voice rose coldly. Your sister's life is at stake, isn't it? The air in the room grew heavy. Our three reflections in the mirror looked like strangers. Mother, Olivia suddenly raised her voice. Actually, there's something else. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Excuse us. Two security guards in black suits entered the room. With solemn expressions, they came straight toward me. Miss Morgan, please exit. What? Unable to comprehend the sudden turn of events, I stood confused as one of the guards grabbed my arm. What's going on? The venue fell silent. My sister rose gracefully. A thin smile played across her perfectly made-up face. I'm sorry, sis. But you're not a real family, are you? Those words stabbed my heart like a knife. What are you saying? Didn't you know? Olivia continued mockingly. We're not real sisters. You're the child of father's previous wife. The air in the room froze. I looked at mother. But she had already turned her back. Security, quickly. Mother's voice was tinged with a sigh. Around us, snickers leaked out. Even among the makeup artists, there was a stir. I stood up silently. My hands trembled slightly as I packed away my makeup tools. Father's keepsake pearl necklace felt cold against my neck. This wedding will surely be cursed. Leaving those words behind, I left the room with dignified steps. With the sound of laughter leaking into the hallway behind me, I headed for the elevator. Just before the doors closed, I caught sight of my sister's triumphant expression. In the car, I let out a deep sigh. My face in the rearview mirror looked strangely calm. I'll never forget this. I whispered those words quietly but firmly. My hand gripped father's keepsake necklace tightly. The luxurious building of the Langham grew smaller in my rearview mirror. Its white walls gleamed brightly in the morning light. When I opened my apartment door, quiet air enveloped me. The day was waning, and twilight light streamed diagonally through the windows. Father's photograph watched me with the same gentle smile as always. I'm home, Dad. Speaking those words, I took off my high heels and let out a deep sigh. Today's events felt like a bad dream. However, the feel of the pearl necklace at my neck told me everything was real. Entering the living room, my eyes fell on mementos of time with Father. Photos from our fishing trips, recipe notes from when we cooked together, commemorative pictures taken at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts on holidays. Each one was an irreplaceable, precious memory. My smartphone screen suddenly lit up. It was a message from a company colleague. Jenny, are you okay? After what happened at the venue. Not feeling like replying, I darkened the screen. That's when I noticed the date. Yes, a week ago. I remembered that day. Visiting my family home, I had accidentally overheard a conversation between mother and sister. Their voices leaked from beyond the study door. Is it true about Will's company going public? Mother's voice was mixed with anxiety. It's not certain yet, my sister answered. But if we had documents signed by the Will family head. So, how much do you need? $500,000. But it's worth it. Once it goes public, it'll increase tenfold immediately. I listened with bated breath. The conversation continued. Jenny should still have a considerable amount in her account, mother's voice lowered. That girl has hardly touched her father's inheritance. But will sis help us? Don't worry, mother's voice turned cold. If we reveal the secret of her birth. At that moment, my phone rang, and the conversation was cut off. I opened my laptop and began checking past emails. Exchanges between mother and sister, communications with the Will family, bank statements. I checked everything meticulously. What emerged was a darkness deeper than I had imagined. The costs of my sister's plastic surgeries had all been paid from father's insurance money. The new brand items and luxury cars were actually mountains of installment debt. And the talk of Will's company going public was a complete fabrication. No way. Looking at the documents, I was stunned. Will's company was actually on the brink of a management crisis. I finally understood why my sister had been so desperate to rush the marriage. I picked up my smartphone and launched the recording app. The conversation from a week ago, records of calls with the bank, exchanges with Will family associates. I carefully organized all the evidence. The night grew deeper. Outside the window, streetlights were beginning to illuminate quietly. Looking at Father's photo, I remembered our past conversations. Jenny, living honestly might sometimes be painful. But that's what true strength is. Yes. Father had taught me something important. I touched the keepsake pearl necklace. Its cold touch strengthened my resolve. From my desk drawer, I took out an old photograph. It was a picture of my sister before plastic surgery. From her high school graduation album, showing completely different features from now. This too should serve as important evidence. Dad, I whispered quietly. Tomorrow, I'll do what I can. I checked the route to the Langham, Boston on my smartphone. The ceremony would start at 11 a.m. I needed to have everything prepared before then. On my desk, the collected evidence was neatly arranged. Recording data, bank statements, photographs, and Will company information. These would be the key to revealing the truth tomorrow. I absolutely won't forgive this. Those words resonated more like a quiet promise than a declaration of resolve. Outside the window, moonlight leaked through the clouds, illuminating the quiet night scene. The Boston cityscape emitted a strange radiance, as if anticipating tomorrow's events. I carefully put away Father's keepsake pearl necklace and headed to bed. Tomorrow, everything would change. That certainty strangely calmed my heart. Lying on my pillow, I made a final check of tomorrow's plan. My position at the venue, timing, words to speak. Everything became clear in my mind. I quietly closed my eyes. In the Cathedral of the Langham, Boston, the pipe organ's sound echoed solemnly. Light through the stained glass colored the pure white aisle in 7 hues. Over 300 guests held their breath, watching the ceremony's progression. I hid behind the back door, making final confirmations. Smartphone, evidence documents, and the pearl necklace at my chest. Everything was prepared for this moment. If anyone has reason why this marriage should not proceed, speak now. The priest's voice echoed through the cathedral. I took a deep breath and placed my hand on the heavy door. I do. My voice broke the silence. The large doors opened, and I began walking down the aisle with resolute steps. A murmur spread. My sister Olivia stood frozen in her wedding dress. Mother Patricia stared at me with an expression of disbelief. Miss Morgan. Security guards approached. But then. Wait. A solemn voice rang out. It was Edward Harrison, head of the Will family. Though in his 80s, he stood straight, leaning on his cane. Young lady, do you have something to say? His voice carried dignity honed by years. Yes, I answered while preparing to play the recording. I will prove that this wedding is founded on fraud. The venue fell silent. What do you mean? Will raised his voice. But his father Edward silenced him with a gesture. "Please continue." I took out my smartphone and began playing the recording from a week ago. Mother and sister's voices rang out clearly. The lie about the public offering, the $500,000 fraud plan, and evidence of their attempt to deceive the Will family. This isn't all. I continued presenting evidence. Proof of enormous debts, forged documents, and this is the final evidence. A photograph was projected onto the large screen. My sister's high school graduation album photo. Features completely different from her current perfect appearance. What is this? The Will family head gripped his cane tightly. "Father," Will shouted. "Is this true? Olivia?" My sister was at a loss for words, nearly collapsing on the spot. "How could this?" Mother mumbled with a pale face. I continued quietly. "To the Will family and all guests present, this wedding is built on falsehood and deception. It was a plan to exploit the Will family's credit for unfair gain." Edward slowly stood up. His expression showed deep sadness and anger. "William," he said to his son, "this wedding is cancelled." "But, Father." Silence. His voice carried an unquestionable strength. "On our family's honor, such deception cannot be permitted." The venue erupted in chaos. Invited guests began leaving their seats one after another. "Jenny, how could you?" my sister said in a trembling voice. "Olivia," I answered while touching the pearl necklace. "This is what real family means." At that moment, someone placed a hand on my shoulder. Turning around, it was the Will family head. "Young lady," he said quietly but firmly, "I sincerely thank you for your courage." I bowed deeply. The venue's commotion sounded like distant waves. "Dad," I whispered in my heart. I did the right thing. The light through the cathedral's stained glass gently illuminated my pearl necklace. It was as if Father was smiling. Mother and sister had already disappeared. The abandoned wedding dress gleamed lonely on the white aisle. Miss Morgan, the Will family butler, approached. "We've prepared a car for you." I nodded quietly and began walking toward the cathedral doors. Behind me, the voices of still excited guests continued to echo. Outside, the soft spring sunlight caressed my cheeks. Taking a deep breath, I caught the scent of cherry blossoms. "Dad," I whispered while looking up at the sky. "This is truly a new beginning." 3 months later, on an early summer afternoon, I was having coffee at a cafe on Newberry Street. The aroma of espresso wafting through the shop and the peaceful atmosphere of people passing by on the street helped calm my mind. In the society section of the Boston Globe, there was a small article. Under the headline, "Morgan Family Sells Luxury Home," there was a photo of our family home. That mansion with its white colonnade had now become someone else's property. I heard rumors that Mother and Olivia had moved to New York. Their social media accounts were completely deleted, and they had vanished from Boston's social circles. The settlement negotiations with the Will family apparently concluded under strict terms. With the payment of damages, Mother's savings were nearly depleted, and Olivia had to give up all her branded goods and luxury cars. "Miss Morgan." I turned to find the Will family's legal counsel standing there. May I have a moment of your time? I nodded and invited him to my table. Mr. Edward asked me to give you this. Saying that, he handed me an envelope. When I opened it, I found a letter of gratitude from the Will family and a new proposal. It was about launching a makeup therapy program at the luxury nursing home operated by the Will family. While I appreciate the gesture, Mr. Edward particularly values your integrity, the counsel continued in a gentle tone. Please consider this as part of our charitable initiatives. Those words reminded me of Father's teachings about the value of living honestly. Thank you. I would be honored to participate. The sunlight streaming through the cafe window danced gently on the table. The following weekend, I visited the luxury nursing home, Harrison House. The entrance was beautifully decorated with seasonal flowers, and classical music played softly. Welcome, Jenny. Edward greeted me, leaning on his cane. His expression now held warmth alongside its former sternness. Would you first listen to what our mothers have to say? He smiled. The desire to remain beautiful as we age is something everyone shares. I nodded deeply. This new challenge of makeup therapy seemed to cast a different light on my future life. That evening, I stopped by the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. It was a place full of memories with Father. I paused in a room of impressionist paintings. Monet's water lilies showed a different expression in the evening light. Taking out my smartphone, I found a new message from a regular salon client. Dear Jenny, I'm always encouraged by your makeup skills and, more than anything, your sincere character. Those words warmed my heart. When I returned home, the sunset was just beginning. I reported the day's events to Father's photograph. Dad, I've found a new path. The pearl necklace gleamed quietly in the evening light. It was as if Father was gently smiling. I sat at my desk and opened my diary. There, all the events were recorded in careful handwriting. Both the difficult days and the joy of new discoveries were preserved as precious records. Living honestly. I quietly wrote down those words. It was the most important teaching I inherited from Father, and a vow I would continue to keep. Outside the window, streetlights were beginning to illuminate one by one. The Boston cityscape was being enveloped in the peaceful curtain of night. I let out a deep sigh, feeling a pleasant tiredness. Tomorrow would begin another new day. My work as a makeup artist, and therapy for the elderly. A job that lights small flames in people's lives. By my pillow was the last photo taken with Father. His smile watches over me always. Good night, Dad. I turned off the light and quietly closed my eyes. Moonlight gently illuminated the pearl necklace. It gleamed softly, as if blessing the beginning of a new life.